utilized consciously as a tool for social change. A global network of grassroots festival organizers may be created to share innovative practices of linking festivals with SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. In witness thereof, we propose these following points as action plan. 1. Strive to create an interconnection between arts and cultural festivals around the world in order to develop a global network for social transformation impacting the quality of life. Strengthening the inclusive and popular basis of arts and culture festivals to create people-to-people forums organized around artistic and cultural practices to enable arts function as social critique. 3. Propagating cultural initiatives to repurpose abandoned properties in the hope of creating new realities. Maybe it's a bit too specific, but anyway. Shall I read it once again? Yeah. Festivals, traditional or contemporary, have been an effective means to boost local development, community engagement, and social inclusion. This positive effect of festivals need to be further understood and utilized consciously as a tool for social change. A global network of grassroots festival organizers may be created to share innovative practices of linking festivals with SDGs. In witness thereof, we propose these following points as action plan. This as IFAC and then those who participated in this group. Strive to create an interconnection between arts and cultural festivals around the world in order to develop a global framework for social transformation impacting the quality of life. So the global network framework is a keyword here. Strengthening the inclusive and popular basis of arts and cultural festivals to create people-to-people forums organized around artistic and cultural practices to enable arts functions as social critique. So people-to-people, bottom-up is the concept here. And then propagating cultural initiatives to repurpose abandoned properties in the hope of creating new realities. Here it's not so much about the real estates, but actually I think what we meant here is more about urban regeneration in general. It's like abandoned or depleted localities than the properties as such. Give you 3 minutes to, okay, Ananya has already a good, you're very good, fast in grasping.
I'd like to say instead of grassroots festival organizers, why don't we call it festival organizers? I mean, it need not be grassroots festival organizers.
Okay, sure.
And
so maybe you can just strike through or put it in a square bracket, grassroots.
Yeah. And if the objective of grassroots is to highlight inclusion, we can write it as a separate point, which is not mentioned.
Okay.
If that is the purpose, perhaps that's the purpose. So
yes, so suggestion is to put in,
just highlight grassroots.
Yeah. Ultimately remove grassroots, but just keep it in a square bracket.
Yeah. And instead of repurpose abandoned properties, as you just mentioned, that it could be written as, adaptive reuse of infrastructure. That could include the heritage structures also, because often we have these heritage buildings which are not used.
Okay.
So, it could be adaptive reuse instead of writing abandoned properties. I mean,
yeah, so propagating cultural initiatives to promote adaptive reuse
of existing infrastructure. That could include heritage and urban.
I agree with you.
Yes,
right.
Morton.
So, May I request, I don't know who is a victim of doing this. That reminds me of my time at UNESCO headquarters when we were negotiating a text of the convention.
And since this is something which IFAC will carry forward, if we can have another point on supporting capacity building, like that is something lacking. So if if the communities have access to capacity building on how to do festivals, festival management, and such things, so if that point can be added somewhere.
So just put capacity building, square bracket. We will draft it later.
Yeah.
So we're not going to do
It's very difficult to do
like
this.
capacity building. And you wanted also add another point on inclusion.
Yeah,
right?
because I think grassroots was written to ensure that inclusion. So if that point can be highlighted, that festivals should give opportunity to all. Normally, it's only the very established they get, but yesterday we had these examples of,
yeah, because we talk here in the second point, we talk about strengthening the inclusive
Yes, that takes care.
That takes care. Okay, so your suggestion point 4. Okay, thank you very much. We would work separately on the point 4, and I'll be very happy to have your help in drafting this little paragraph also.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Any other?
Yes, sir. Yeah. I'll ask him. Can you help him to?
Thank you.
Number 3, instead of saying to repurpose abandoned properties, it's an initiative to promote the adaptive reuse of existing infrastructure. Yes, sir. Sorry.
I wanted to touch about the social inclusion. What's the meaning of the social inclusion according to the committee? But I think maybe that's my interpretation. Maybe for women or maybe for children, but not this disability. I want to make it clear, because maybe the population of this marginalized, not only in the city, but also in the village and the suburban.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're right. It's actually here on purpose. We haven't included who should be included because depending on different contexts, the marginalized or excluded category of people are very different. Sometimes it's women, sometimes it's a children, somebody it's the elder person with different disabilities, or sometimes it's ethnic minorities. And if we start putting each and everything, the paragraph becomes super long. That is my experience in the UN when you discuss like this kind of sentence. And you said, yes, like think about the marginalized. And then somebody said, oh yeah, please as such as women. And then said, then please as such as indigenous people. And then please such, and this and this. And then the list became very, very long. And then as you start listing up, and because we can never be exhaustive while we're listing up, then we end up excluding somebody by not forgetting to mention in this kind of text, or somebody feels excluded because we fail to list up one of those things. So for the security, so we thought we leave it to the imagination of each and everybody as to who should be included, because in case of like Ananya, who did festivals in India. In the rural areas in India, they already went to excluded communities to organize festivals. So for them, initially the excluded people who has to be included are the village themselves. In case of Sabine, of course the city in Germany has higher level of education and everything, but there are people who are totally excluded from arts, who think that art is not my kind of, my domain is for some intellectuals and snob people. And then she said, no, it's for everybody. And she brought in all the citizens, uncles and aunties, and then kids into the group. So depending on, where they are, and of course Max, the whole attempt of Max is to bring all the excluded community from the audiovisual sector of Indonesia to the forefront from Papua, right? And especially from village versus city, or Papua versus Java. And so Konosha is different, but Your point is well taken because it's something that is very close to the heart of UNESCO, and we can discuss separately about this inclusion of person with disabilities in cultural enjoyment.
Yeah. Okay, I still don't see the patron or the role of the maybe local government or head government because as far as our experience, we kind of autopilot if not to be supervised by local government or government. The role, my point is the role of the government, where is that, in the mechanism of the festival. Yeah, so far I see like in British we have Art Council, something like that. Even in Singapore we have that. And in Indonesia now we start with Indonesiana, and I think we need such a patron from grassroots or from spontaneous local festival connected with the local government or head government, something like that.
So your suggestion is to specify the responsibility of the local government?
Yes. Otherwise, it's like from Papua, they're kind of autopilot. And there are so many autopilots in my place also.
I don't know, maybe, because one possibility is to refer to that notion in the capacity building paragraph we are yet to draft, because if I remember the presentation about Indonesiana, the challenge was also the local government understand how to, so capacity building is not about local communities, but also like local government understand how to do a that one, they can do a festival, and then two, they can do a festival in a very interesting way, and then three, they can do it together with the local communities. It's a whole educational process, I understand, that you are struggling to spread. So maybe, it could be a capacity building. It's for and the organizers could be anybody, but it includes the local government. So maybe do you think that would be, because the thing is, there's nobody from local government, so we cannot say local government will be responsible, unless they are here and say, yes, we'll be responsible. So, yes.
Thank you. I think we also need to make a statement to make festival other than as a method for social or for political change, also festival as a method for ecological movement. I think it is more important now because of this climate change. And our little girl, who's this Swedish girl? Greta Thunberg is a good example on how to organize this.
So, then do you think maybe in the second line where we say that festival is a good mean for local development, community engagement, social inclusion, but also add environmental consciousness or something? Yeah. Okay, so the second line, local development, community engagement, social environmental consciousness, social. Okay. Because SDGs is like it's a big basket for everything, right? It's like what we call in French soup immangeable, like undrinkable soup, because you put everything. It looks gorgeous, but like poof, when you put in your mouth, you feel like a spit. Okay, that is my personal opinion. Don't say that in the UN forum.
I just want to add something to what Papa here was saying a while ago about the government. Maybe he means that to solicit government support. Maybe we can add it as one more point there. Solicit government support for these festivals.
Are you from the Ministry of Culture? How do you feel? Is it appropriate for us to say we formally solicit and firmly request the government support? Capacity building exercise. Thank you very much for the points. We're not going to do the drafting exercise here, but then we'll talk about that. Yeah.
Based on our practices, for us, regarding this practice of festivals, festivals is always strive as big commemorations, either annual, biannual, quintennial, triennial, something like that. So in the sense, like what happened to the others who not could manage what so-called festivals? What happened to the other who intensifies themselves by creating like small exercises? Because as we know that festivals is not mainly about the way of festivities being commemorated in something like that. Because for sure, like for some of us think the festival is always taking lots of effort by taking energy, times, wise, stakeholders, budgets, funding, and something like that, which is for in some many of collective and communities, it's also create a different values on negotiations, especially concerning about the support or funding body for something like that, even for the governments or other private matters. But in the sense, we need to articulate more into what is festival actually, it is needed or not. Because if we strive regarding the festival and the method of the knowledge, I mean, social exchange here is connected to the knowledge itself. I mean, the knowledge should be distributed not only through festival, but I think through mostly like different kind of exercises up until the festivals. Because like the festival, it's always means to be like a big event, which is within the big event, sometimes the process itself is never visible, and sometimes it's just like celebrating, and only like probably one day up until a week and something like that, and that's it. But the other things like this kind of particular exercises is mostly like sustained within themselves, and it's locally grassrooted locally, and then it's also it's sometimes it's content lots of different contexts within the local itself. So this is could be like a more discussion regarding how to articulate festivals, and then what is the necessity of festival itself by knowing the festival, if it's believed the festival is a method of a social change, and also it's the knowledge of distribution of education, distribution of knowledge throughout the formal education, or also the knowledge of practicing the experience, something like that. Thank you.
I fully agree with you, and it's not like when we say festivals great social impact, it's not so much of the end products where everything is perfect like a stage here and then everybody's singing, dancing, but actually the very process of preparation, has a lot of educational, transformative, whatever change you are thinking about. It's a learning process for the civil society. It's sometimes or in case of India, it's also a process where Hindus and the Muslims mix because they have to prepare together. Often the celebration of Hindu gods is actually all the equipments and effigies are made by the Muslim community. So it's like a business opportunity for everybody. So this whole process, which is very interesting, and I fully agree with you. I don't know how to capture that, but somewhere maybe in the preamble, I want to mention one about, not about the process and the end product as such, is actually the very process of this social change we're actually trying to achieve. So thank you very much for that very important observation. Yeah. So please just add the keywords somewhere. Keep adding. If we start doing a perfect drafting here, we can spend like till midnight. So, but yes, please keep this throughout, and we'll find a way of making a beautiful sentence, a coherent sentence. Yes.
Sorry. Okay. In terms of government involvement, the basic argument is actually the law, the Act Number 5, 2017. It dictated that the role of the government is to become facilitator. For example, that point number 3, adaptive reuse of cultural properties or repurposed abandoned properties, is actually one of the resolution from the Indonesian Cultural Congress 2018. So in terms of properties, it is either owned by the government or private sector, right? But even though it's owned by private sector, the government should take role, to facilitate how to repurpose those abandoned and so on. So I guess that's one thing. And then the other, of course, the capacity building. We in Indonesia now, of course, that's also our main program, the capacity building. And for example, like Festival Film Papua or even programs from Jatiwangi is not involved in Indonesia now because in our first 2 years, our main target is the local government. But then, in some way, there has to be done like that, I mean, like a festival that initiated by the community, the local government should acknowledge it, should recognize that this is, something good, impact and so on. So I don't know how to put it, but I think somewhere it's already in there. But I just mentioned that the basic argument is the law, the Act number 5, 2017, is there.
Okay, thank you very much, and it's, I think, very reassuring for everybody, especially from Indonesia, to hear that this is part of the government vision. It's not only Hilmar Farid talking, Hilmar Farid saying, but it's also in the law.
No.
And then there's also you, and then there's also a program called Indonesiana. So anything to be claimed, please get his contacts send all your queries. Yeah. Okay, any more comments, observations? Because yesterday the presentation was so intense that not everybody was able perhaps to give your comments. So maybe this is an opportunity to say your last word, please.
Sorry, maybe it's not local government involvement, just government involvement.
It's just a little thing. Okay, I do agree that it's important to think about social inclusion and community engagement or local development and stuff things. But I think it's also important that all of these things, it has to be implemented through high quality programs of those things. Because if we don't have a high quality of work of those things, it's just, I mean, it's not just like social inclusion. It's just not like, you know, like invite people to join it, but how to make high quality programs through our work. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it's very important that it's not just a good intention, but you have to, unless your work, the end product is of a high quality, you are not convincing at the end of the day, right? I think so. I fully think, because I think when Ananya says capacity building, it's about many things. It's not about how to organize, but what is a quality standard, but you have to think about the process, designing, visioning to make sure the festivals contribute to some sort of development agenda, but also how to make it a professional look like a professional festivals, you know, as a professional event organizers. These are all kind of part of the capacity building. But your point's well taken. It's the quality matters. That is true. It's like we cannot be. If you're activist, you have to do it very professionally, so that it's you convince everybody. Yes, madam.
One more little thing. I'd like also maybe to put terms for capacity building, maybe related to the management, and also that we need something like intellectuality, knowledge in the capacity building. I think that term is also important. And I don't know where to put, but I'm thinking of the festival also is also related to, or maybe I'm thinking of distinctive festival for each village maybe, or maybe each village has to have their own identity for its festival. Maybe this is also related to one village, one product, something like that, but this can be related to festival. Thank you.
So it's a capacity building on how to understand your exclusive, your speciality, not having so many similar festivals across it, because this is a challenge where Indonesia has been also facing, right, Hebuji? Yeah, you know, she mentioned about the importance of understanding the specificity of each village to create a distinctive festivals or the products, because I think there are many similar events. For instance, in Toba, I realized that everybody in 7 districts around Lake Toba are doing same Toba festivals, Ulos festivals everywhere. And then it's like so small, and then they are just doing independently. And then like, but if you have so many at the same time, I mean, in different period of time in small scale, who is going to come, you know? And they're like, you know. So I think sometimes there's a danger that there's like a lot of like a small, similar one mushrooming without much impact, and this is perhaps one of your concern, right?
Yes, in the program we encourage every teamwork
do the knowledge management program. So collecting all the database, something like that. And then other thing is connectivity. We're trying to connect each festival with other with same cultural entities that become the content of the festival. We're still trying to do that. It's huge country.
And actually, I very much look forward to working with your unit to see how to churn more interesting ideas of,
Sure.
Identity building or networking.
Sure,
So,
sure.
yeah, that's a separate talk we can have.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with Maseru, and like he said yesterday, that the government try not to involve much in the cultural development, but yet we still need the patron from government. Yet, let me share a little bit our experience in the Jogja and Solo, even though Jogja is elected as the highest in the IPK, but still many activities kind of autopilot, even though we have a Danais, because there's no system. I know it's now become one of the major festival in Indonesia, Art Jog. He start from himself, and now everybody try to help him. And my experience, I work with the Solo EC. We have World Dance Day. It's 12 years. Also very struggling, and sometimes we make a joke like topeng monyet, you know, it's dancing monkey in the, to have to dance, to have to make money, to have everything, and make us exploded. Let the artists do their talents, and let the sponsor do the funding. And we need like that, not we kind of cipaku, do everything. It's like topeng monyet in the street, dance, search for money, yeah. And the last World Dance Day in EG Solo, it's very amazing. 6,000 dancers for 2 nights. We dance a lot and so chaotic. And we really envy in the positive term with the Pekan Kebudayaan Nasional, yeah, we can make it in order. In Solo we cannot, because we don't have fun. So everybody must be squeezed in pendopo, and pendopo is, in Japanese culture, must be very pleasant. It's like oven, so hot, everybody sitting there. And yeah, that's why we try to bring with the Maseru, please help us, because we cannot do like topeng monyet, do everything. Let the artists do their talent maximally, like Singapore, very easy to get the support. And they just concentrate to make the artworks and the funding and other things, let other organizations do. And we are very happy with the Indonesian platform. And like Mas Heru said yesterday, government not try to inform much, but try to fostering or try to help the artists that we have a problem so far. Thank you.
Yeah. So you got
Listening to all this, I was thinking in point 1, when we are saying that we want this network development for a global framework, here we can add those points of, you know, advocacy for government support, advocacy for access to fund. You know, those can also be the reasons for interconnection, not only social transformation.
Thank you, Ananya, for your suggestions. And as usual, the one who suggested has to help me in the drafting, so I count on you. It happens in the meetings, the one who gives a good idea is the one who has to do it.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, any more comments? Then maybe, for the interest of time, should we pass to the next group 6, yeah? Subset 6, yeah.
Good morning, everyone. So, I was introduced by Pak Ananto, but let me reintroduce myself. My name is Rizky, so I'm Bumoy staff. So, I was asked very suddenly by Pak Ananto to lead these moderations. So basically the Subtem 6 was moderated by Pak Abi Kusno, but unfortunately he cannot join us because he has to attending a talk show in the Istora Senayan, yeah, in the National Cultural Weeks. So please allow me to read the substance or the essence, and next is the action plan of the Subtem 6, that what we got from the previous discussions. And we try to squeeze and extrude from the previous discussions. So, subtheme 6, well-being for all towards a universal basic right to happiness. Well-being and happiness for all is the ultimate goal of development that cannot be merely judged by the amount of material wealth, but immaterial factors such as sense of belonging, pride, and fulfillment. Culture is probably one of the most effective means to bring emotional, intellectual, and spiritual satisfaction. Contribution of culture for development should be measured not only from its economic output, but for its power in providing personal well-being and happiness. In witness thereof, we propose these following points as action plan. First, point number 1, advocate development policies that is driven toward culture-based economy that ensures well-being for all members of biosphere. In turn, culture-based economy presupposes a country's cultural index. Number 2, promote an inclusive universal basic right to happiness as the supreme goal of all development policies. Number 3, campaign for an education system which relies on the physical and mental well-being of all children in order to create a joyful environment. 4, create a global peer-to-peer network where the currency is the relation between people. So that's what we got from the previous discussions. So do you think it's clear from my perusal on the subtheme 6? Yes. Yes. Yeah. So unfortunately,
the right person to ask. The fourth sentence, where the currency is a relation between people, what is currency in this context? I understood currency as in money, currency, rupiah, US dollars.
So basically,
okay, who is the one who drafted?
So basically, Taufik. So basically, we have yesterday we have like discussion about the currency. So there's an offer about the cryptocurrency. So basically, regarding the happiness, it's not about the individual, but how the relationship with people to people. So happiness is about the collectivity instead of the pursuit of the individual happiness. So that's what we want to emphasize. Probably, Bapak bisa, you could explain it much more better. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, it is. If we confuse if the currency is in that context, relation peer-to-peer. But I think in the first action plans, this is already implicit there, actually. I think not as the specific, because what I doing yesterday, this is only to propose one example for what the advocate for development policies driven toward culture-based economy. This is what I mean, actually. Okay. Yes, this is enough, I think. Yeah, scratch
so, yeah,
number 4, I think.
Please strike through the point number 4. So, okay, please give the microphone. Yeah, thank you.
This is for point number 3, to create a joyful environment. From what I remember from the discussion yesterday, the goal here is to create an environment conducive for learning. Maybe it will be better to phrase it that way, to create an environment conducive for learning. Because, of course, even if happiness and well-being is our goal here, to say that it's just a joyful environment, I don't think that education has that that ultimate goal. So the thing here is for them also to learn while enjoying the process of learning. So an environment conducive for learning.
Okay. So you mean you want to emphasize on the conducive environment? Yes. Instead, joyful is the product itself from the conducive situation.
Yeah, it's like it's spill over.
A spillover,
Right.
okay. Yeah. So this, okay, thank you. Okay, is there any input from the participants who attend this Substance 6? It's quite challenging issues. Okay, please.
Thank you very much, Pramana Pramadi. If there is a place that we could add mutual respect and trust somewhere in the paragraph or any of the items, I think that would actually the base of the well-being and happiness as a community, and on top of personal happiness.
So it's much better if you put in the paragraph in the line number 1, such a sense of belonging, trust, pride, something like that.
Yeah, and then the idea is to have mutual respect and trust. So we might do the editing, but exactly.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, probably you can add probably in the first line, probably this part, belonging, probably like a mutual trust or mutual interaction, something like that. Just to put the square bracket. Okay.
Yeah.
Please, the mic. Oh,
Yeah, I'd like to also comment on point 3. I would propose to add, I think the same as you about the word trust, and then the word respecting individuality as well for the children, the uniqueness. So I'm not sure whether it is already, included in the physical and mental well-being, but what we discussed yesterday, it is so important to respect individuality of the children, like the uniqueness, embracing all differences.
So probably we can put on the point number 3.
Number 3.
Yeah, so the children should be identified based on their necessity, probably from their
Uniqueness.
mental characteristic or uniqueness. So
Yeah, because that's something that needs to be highlighted.
okay, so please add on the point number 3. The education should be also like more like individual, customized.
Yes,
so
personalized.
Personalized. I mean, yeah. Okay.
I'd like to comment, to give a general comment. I agree that culture is probably one of the most effective means to bring emotional, intellectual, and spiritual satisfaction. In this case, I believe that the objects of the advancement of culture are the 10 objects actually can give happiness to the society, because they are all giving the intimacy between each people. But the problem is, so far, I think maybe the term of the advancement of culture, or maybe the 10 objects, are not known by all of the society. So there is a problem of knowledge here between the people, or maybe the students, the young generation. So I'm thinking of, I'm also conducting a research, making or digitalizing a kind of storytelling, so that it can be shared between the young generation or the students, that they are in favor of digital tools. So I'm thinking about whether it is okay or not to put a kind of digitalizing knowledge for related to the advancement of culture, to make it in favor for the young generation.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's the digitalization, also the we have discussion like also the digitalization also become a problem because like in the era of the social media, so there's a lot of interaction. So we want to embrace the locality and also the globalization, but at the same time it really causes depression to the kids because they try to compare themselves to the others. So this becomes challenge. So what kind of curriculum in the educational system that we should introduce to them so to kind of avoid that thing? So when digitalization happens, so how they can filter such a negative impact of the digitalization itself. So yeah. Yeah, you have to discuss.
If everybody wants to start seeing in each and every activities that they are doing reflected in here, then that becomes like a 200-page document. So, but I think we'll take note of what you're doing, and that yes, it's passed. And I guess this is one of the important points in the National Law number 5. But yeah, but perhaps let's not specifically mention here. My suggestion.
Okay, thank you for your suggestion. Okay.
Well, just a short suggestion. Maybe it would be good to add a personal, but for its power in providing personal well-being and happiness for all, because if this focuses very much on the individual happiness, and maybe one should always make clear that individual happiness is only possible in relationship to others. And maybe I think there's something missing concerning the respect for nature and for the environment. Maybe it would be good not to emphasize only the happiness, the social happiness of people, but also that this also works only as quality of life in relationship to the natural environment and in respect to everything around, because otherwise we will run into the same problems again. Due to happiness, we sacrifice, so to say, our environmental issues. So maybe one could add that somewhere.
Probably we can put in here well-being for our member, and also we respecting the environmental health or something like that,
natural,
or sustainability.
Yes, sustainable issues also for animals and everything around. I mean, 200 are dying out every day. So, and this is due to our influence. So I think we should at least respect that, and it's also necessary for all the regional development.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, please rapporteur add the well-being for our member, or probably just put a square bracket like the respecting the environmental sustainability.
Yeah.
Yeah, you already highlight. So please add square brackets like. Oh, okay. Oh, well-being. Okay. On this para. Okay. Okay. We will we'll put in our notes in the drafting process. Sorry, in the paragraph this line. Okay. Is there any input? Okay.
Okay. Could you please
scroll down? Scroll up.
Scroll down.
Scroll down.
Yeah. Scroll down. Yeah. No. That's one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So subtheme 6 is the title of that, well-being for all, towards universal basic rights to happiness. So thinking about the basic rights is referred to avoid to stigma and also discriminated community, because I don't know, I can see from this statement actually is quite positive, but I want to add something that sometimes we ignoring the community who is stigmatized and discriminated by the people around it from area. Maybe I can give you some information about the one people in the Papua or maybe in the village. They developed their own upper livelihood, but they never can develop their financial assistance from anywhere. Because what? Because of the stigmatized the situation, but also they stigmatized from themselves. So I see this is a very crucial thing, because if you think it is not a part of the community, how we can make them empowered in future? Okay.
So basically, there's another sub-theme that are talking about the diversity. That's one of the topic is we emphasize about the media diversity. See, it is under UNESCO 2005 conventions. So we want to tackle the stereotyping or the stigmatization of the people. So I don't know what is the current progress, but of course your suggestion probably also addressing another sub-theme. So that's also, we also concerned about that. So we also try to endeavor them to also to provide like equal educations about when they're promoting themselves through the film. Is it about their equality compared to the other places in Indonesia? So we want to create equal opportunity, not the content itself, but also concerning the workforce itself. So we want to have a balance, people working in the industrial as well. So not only dominated by the male, but also from the female itself. And the topic itself also, we want to encourage more diversity. So not about the politics, probably about the livelihood, or probably about their cultural. So we want to address that in the other sub-theme. Thank you, Pak. Okay.
Actually,
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah.
No, this I want to add just one word from Ms. Pramana Pramadi, because she said about mutual trust, and one word that is missing there is respect.
Respect. Okay. Mutual respect, trust and respect. Okay. Probably you can just add comma. Oh yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay,
thank you. Since we're talking about action plan, can we like promote the primacy of cultural approach over the security or military approach?
Pardon? Security?
So it's like a campaign to reduce the security and military approach and replace it with cultural approach.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. It was discussed by Ananto. Probably you can help me. Probably. Okay. Okay. We will take note about that.
And urgent.
Okay.
Especially since I sit with a Papua here.
Okay.
More cultural diplomacy instead of military.
Yeah. Oh, military. Okay. So yeah, probably.
Security and military approach is the source of unhappiness in many parts of the world.
Yes. Okay, we will tweak the paragraph one. Okay. Okay, is there any input? Okay.
I would like to propose to put the word contextual in education. Would that be possible? So it's a contextual education. That's something that's very important.
Which part?
And point number 3.
Oh yeah, contextual education, yes. So it's much more contextualized. So, okay. Okay, thank you. Ibu.
Sorry, one more thing, if I may. As a part of strategy, if I could propose identifying elements that would promote well-being and happiness as dynamical parameters that might change from time to time. So it is a continuous learning effort for all of us to identify those elements. Because, you know, what is it that we should be working on is not rather pretty clear. So it is the homework for all of us, actually. identifying the elements of happiness and well-being and then promote it.
Okay, so we should continually like learning about the dynamic of the
and
environment, also
it
the
is something
building.
which is perhaps dependent on the spatio-temporal
so we keep
context.
improving the standard and also the what is the happiness toward the time over time.
Right.
Okay.
Just being perceptive to the environment as well as our own being.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, apa itu dulu?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm still missing this addition in the first paragraph. Contribution of culture for development should be measured not only from its economic output, but for its power in providing personal well-being and happiness for all in respect of, in the last sentence, I think we agreed to at least put that in as a proposition here, for all in respect to environmental
respecting
questions,
environment,
because this was now completely
Please
left
put
out.
square bracket respecting the environment.
For all in respect of for the environment and something like that.
Please write down the rapport too.
Yeah.
Respect our rapport. Just put them like that, and we will improve the drafting process.
Of course, it's not
just to give a hint or clue,
just
so
to
we can
know,
develop
but
it
the
later.
whole point was just not taken up, and I think it might be really necessary for all of us if we want to survive.
Okay,
to
like Bu Moy thought, we will
not
drag
only
Bu
think
Sabin
of
to
our
improve.
happiness, but also of the happiness of the environment.
Yeah, we'll drag Ibu Sabin to drafting this, like with Ibu Ananya. Okay, please, Mas.
Yeah, I would like to simply suggest to the point number 3, line 2. It is state that which relies on the physical and mental well-being. I would like to add then spiritual also included there. So it is balanced to the previous one in the introduction that states to bring emotional, intellectual, and spiritual satisfaction. So I thought that it is good enough if we put the spiritual also in education system.
Spiritual, okay.
Yeah.
Mental, spiritual.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it is just suggestion if it is accepted. I don't. Because mental sometimes is kind of hard got from spiritual. People learn in spiritual and they can't get their mentality. They learn mental, but they don't get the spiritual and in reverse. That is just suggestion, yes.
Thank you, Mas. Okay, quiet first discussion. So, is there any input? Okay, so for the sake of our restricted time, probably Pak Ananto want to summarize. Thank you for all of your input.
Well, thank you very much for your input. We will get a break. We will back about 11 o'clock in the foyer, and we will, what do you call? Now it's now it's 10:20. It's gonna be around 11 o'clock. We have time for 30 minutes to clean it up on this one. So thank you again very much. We will take a break for a while. Okay.